Okay, so it seems like there's been a little bit of an update to the whole Filian situation, and this one is very interesting as it seems like an old clip has resurfaced, and it actually kind of makes sense with a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing with her hiatus and what she's got planned, and could make sense as to why it's been so long, and essentially make sense to literally everything that we've seen, and we'll go into it. But obviously we've been covering everything, including the wall, which has ended and is set to be, put up at Shibuya Crossing. Now, this actually maybe has a little bit more meaning behind it than actually we first thought, because Rima actually came out with this post here, essentially saying a resurfaced Filian clip where she reveals that she's working with one of Japan's top anime studios for her new debut. Which is going to start to make a lot of sense. We'll connect the dots in 1 second, but here is the clip. Let's just play it and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, can you tell us anything about your debut?
It's in a few months, maybe.
Nice.
I don't want to put a date on it. No dates. We're working on a trailer for it with a particularly well-known animation studio that has brought some animes you may have heard of.
Hell yeah.
Do you want to see the storyboard?
If you want, but I'm not going to show you anything back.
Mods, do you have that storyboard thing? You know what I'm talking about, Mods? Can you go to Discord real quick? Yeah. And then go to maybe downloads.
Oh my gosh.
It should be called, it's like a PDF. Oh, there it is that. Copy that. No. Copy that and send to Lena. You cannot leak this at all. Let me know what you think. This is like the first draft. It's getting changed a lot, but yeah. You can at least get that far.
Oh,
what do you think?
I love it.
It's gonna be a lot better when it's actually done, but that was like the first draft.
This is super cute, dude. I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us anything about your debut?
So yeah, obviously that is her talking about her debut directly, saying that she is working with an anime studio. So an anime studio that's worked apparently on some pretty big projects before, and it is very cool, right? And it does make a lot of sense now whenever we start to look at everything else, because as we mentioned before, well, she was planning to have this up on Shibuya Crossing, this big thing, as well as this, where Filian's voice appeared at Shibuya Crossing on a different advertisement, and yeah, she appeared up there. And a lot of people were wondering, well, why would she advertise to Japan? She's an English-speaking streamer, she's an English-speaking VTuber. What is the point in advertising to Japan? And maybe that is the case of, this that is going on with the anime studio. And maybe the anime studio would like to, showcase it a little bit more in the Japanese, audience as well, which honestly could be a thing. And, whenever we talk about as well the time that she's been away, one of the most notorious things behind anime studios is, you guessed it, delays. Now, again, I don't know if this is necessarily the truth. It might be that something else is going on and that's why it's being delayed or whatever. But, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe the trailer got delayed or whatever, or the video got delayed, which obviously has delayed everything else. And that's why Filian hasn't been back in around about 6 months' time, because maybe things just got put back due to that. And as I said, it's a very common thing within anime studios for that to happen. Especially if they've got bigger projects, right? Because I'm sure that, obviously Filian is a big project, but, they've probably got anime and stuff that they need to prioritize first, and get out for the seasons and things like that, before a VTuber trailer, which maybe can wait a little bit of time, right? So potentially that could be what is going on. Now, obviously that is just all in my head. There might be a completely other reason as to why, but it does make sense to me, at least as to a reasoning as to why it's taken so long, and whatever. Now, is it solely just this? I don't know. Obviously she says specifically it's a trailer for her new debut, but have they worked on anything else with Japanese companies? Maybe even the model, is it done by a Japanese artist? I don't know. But again, it would be very cool to see what actually comes out of this, and to what extent they've worked with this anime studio, right? And again, it is pretty cool to see though that this has been talked about, and someone has brought up the clip. I don't know if Rima found it or someone else found it, but it's cool to see that that has been talked about. And obviously there's been a couple of comments, obviously let me just refresh it, saying, let me guess, it's going to be a 3-minute long anime short and nothing else, which again, it probably will be. As we said, it's a trailer, so it's not going to be like an entire full anime episode or anything like that. But, as I said, these things sometimes take time, even for something as small as like a 3-minute trailer. Now, people might argue, oh, is there any point in like having this long hiatus just for a 3-minute trailer? 100%. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it won't help. But it definitely is something cool, and it's one of these things that I've mentioned a lot whenever it comes to Filian's hiatus. Is it's kind of like a bucket list thing, right? I'm not saying that this is necessarily on her bucket list, but it's something cool that you can kind of be a part of and say, hey, this was featured during my career and my time as a content creator. And not only, obviously we were talking about that in the context of this and the Shibuya Crossing advert, right? Having an advert up on Shibuya Crossing is a huge achievement. Now, maybe, is it going to introduce a lot of people to your stream? No. Is it exactly the best marketing, strategy? No. But it's also a cool thing to be like, hey, that's what we did in my career. And that's just like a cool memory that you can have, that you have managed to, been able to accomplish, right? And that's the same thing with the anime studio, I feel like, right? Is the anime trailer necessarily going to bring many people in? I mean, it depends how good it is, I guess. Maybe if it's absolutely insane, then it could actually bring some more people in if it goes viral. You never know. But the likelihood, maybe not, right? Maybe it's just going to be like a 3-minute thing and people are going to go, oh, cool. Anyways, she's back to streaming now. That would probably be the main thing. But also, is it a cool thing that Filian has managed to work with such a huge anime studio and managed to, obviously I don't know which anime studio it is, but I'm assuming they're pretty huge considering the fact that she said that they've worked on a lot of things before. So again, having that kind of opportunity and kind of having that as a memory and like a kind of, part of your career to work with such a huge anime studio, anybody would do that, right? I would do that. If some anime studio came to me and they're like, yeah, we want to make some anime or whatever, and we want your help with it. Yeah, I'm doing it. Is it going to, maybe, directly cross over with this content or whatever? Would it necessarily help me in terms of getting more viewers? No, probably not. But also, it's very cool and I would still do it, right? And I'm sure many of you would, if you were offered to make some kind of anime trailer, anime studio, animation, whatever you want to call it, right? You would probably take it, right? Because it's cool. It's a cool thing to do. And, maybe some people could argue, did she have to take this long hiatus to be able to do that? Couldn't she just carried on streaming? Maybe, but as I said, maybe plans got a little bit mixed up or whatever, and things are just how they are right now, right? There could be other reasons as well. But either way, I don't think this is anything to be kind of, brought down upon. I know a lot of people are very unhappy at how long, the hiatus has been. I know people are unhappy about, how dragged out it's getting. It has been a very long time, right? But I do think it's, important to not take away the fact that she has been doing some cool things, or she has some cool things planned that maybe might not be as big for you, maybe might not be worth it for you as a viewer, but I definitely do think it's worth it as something that, her personally could kind of look back on. And even, I think even fans could look back on it, right? Even if it doesn't bring in new viewers, as I said, many fans could look back at it and go, that was actually a really cool thing that, was done. And, it's the same for many, kind of YouTubers and streamers and stuff like that. They all have these big events and big things that they do that they look back on and the community like it. So, I think this is definitely going to be one of them for Filian. For example, you ever seen like Giguk, for example, he made that anime, right? That was absolutely insane, and that's obviously going to be one of the most important things of his entire career because of that, right? Does it necessarily bring in more viewers? No, right? Does it necessarily get him more attention? Not really. But is it a cool thing that he worked on? Yeah, and I think that's all that kind of matters, right? And the same goes for many other people as well, and it doesn't have to be in the case of like an anime. Obviously, I'm only using Giguk as an example because it's kind of closely related. But I'm talking more so like, just anything, like an event, right? For example, I don't know. I'm trying to think of any event that's gone on. Like, Ludwig does a lot of events. I know he does them. And I'm sure he looks back at a lot of them and thinks, that was really cool, and stuff like that. And as much as I hate the Streamer Awards, and we talked about how much I hate the Streamer Awards of QT Cinderella and all that kind of stuff, that is still a cool thing that she could put on and remember as her career, despite how it went and how the voting went. We won't talk about that, but still, it's a cool event that she put on, and obviously her chat and whatever will remember that. And the same goes for literally any event. You can think about any event ever, right? Or any kind of cool animation thing or whatever, right? There's many VTubers as well. They release a song or whatever, and it completely changes the trajectory of everything that they are doing, and it is something that is remembered by their audience forever, right? So I definitely do think that is something that maybe some people are kind of glossing over on. Obviously, as I said, I understand the frustration. They want, people to be back, but I still think it's a cool thing, right? I don't get the point of all this build up, saying, so she had this all planned out for a month like a murder mystery. Now that I know this, why do I feel like we're only halfway through it? Saying, interesting, it's 50-50. So yeah, some people are, happy, some people not so happy, some people in the middle. But yeah, I do think it's very interesting. Of course, I can't wait to see what can come out of this, and hopefully they can create a cool trailer. But as I said, I feel like, you know, some people are being a little bit too negative, right? I understand the frustration of her not coming back. Totally fine. But, you know, we can go watch someone else for a little bit. That's fine. You know, as much as I want Filian back as well, I think that, you know, it's cool. If she's working on some personal project that she wants to work on and she wants to be included in her career, I think it's totally up to her, and she's allowed to do that, right? And I think that it's 100%, you know, a cool thing for her. So yeah, that's, you know, I'm going to support her, of course. But yeah, that's about all I got for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go to GameSubs, use my code Kaza, get 10% off again. They've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. Definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.